The rain did not fall gently that night. It crashed down like the sky itself had finally given up. It soaked the streets until they shimmered like broken mirrors and blurred the city into something unrecognizable. And in the middle of that storm, a tired single mother made a decision that would quietly rewrite her entire life. She did not know it yet, not as she gripped the steering wheel with aching hands and squinted through the sheets of rain. But the man standing at the edge of the road was not just another stranger. He was the answer to a question she had stopped asking years ago. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that small choices can change everything, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only matter when they are felt together. Her name was Mara, and exhaustion lived in her bones the way rainwater lived in the cracks of the road. Life had not collapsed all at once. It had eroded slowly, the way cliffs do, piece by piece. She was 34 and felt much older, her days measured not in dreams but in grocery receipts, school drop-offs, late fees, and the constant arithmetic of survival. Every morning began before sunrise, when the world was quiet and forgiving, and every night ended with her sitting on the edge of her son's bed, watching his chest rise and fall, wondering how she would make tomorrow work. She loved him with a fierce, almost painful devotion, but love did not pay rent, and it did not erase the loneliness that crept in once the lights were off. The rain had started earlier that evening, sudden and violent, catching everyone off guard. Mara had just finished a double shift at the diner, her feet throbbing and her shoulders tight from smiling through the day. The tips had been thin, the customers impatient, and the manager had reminded her twice about being late last week when her son had been sick. She drove carefully, aware that her old car shuddered at sharp turns and disliked wet roads. Every red light felt like an accusation, every mile another test of endurance. She told herself she just needed to get home, warm up some soup, and sleep before doing it all again. That was when she saw him. He stood beneath a flickering streetlight, rain soaking his jacket, his hair plastered to his forehead, one arm raised in a hesitant gesture that could have been hope or embarrassment. He did not look dangerous. He did not look confident. He looked tired in a way she recognized instantly, the kind of tired that came from carrying too much for too long. Mara slowed without fully deciding to, her mind filled with reasons not to stop, with warnings learned from years of being careful. She had a child waiting at home. She had responsibilities. She had learned not to invite risk into her life. And yet, something tugged at her, quiet but insistent. She remembered nights when she herself had walked in the rain, feeling invisible, wishing someone would see her struggle without needing an explanation. The storm hammered down harder, as if urging her to choose quickly. She pulled over, the car idling unevenly, and gestured for him to get in. The decision took seconds. The consequences would unfold for years. Inside the car, the air shifted, heavy with rain and the presence of another life brushing against hers. She kept her eyes on the road, aware of every sound, every movement. But the fear she expected did not come. Instead, there was an unexpected calm, as if something long misaligned had quietly slipped into place. She drove toward the apartment complex, listening as the rain softened slightly, the world narrowing to the hum of the engine and the rhythmic sweep of the wipers. She did not know where he was headed beyond a vague direction, and she did not ask questions she was not ready to hear answers to. The ride was not long, but it was enough. Enough for her to notice the careful way he held himself, as if trying not to take up space. Enough to sense that his life, like hers, had not turned out the way it was once promised. When she finally pulled to the curb near his destination, the rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, and the street felt strangely quiet, as if holding its breath. He stepped out, soaked and grateful, and before disappearing into the gray night, he paused, looking back at her with an expression that lingered long after he was gone. Mara drove home with her heart beating a little faster than usual, unsettled by a connection she could not explain. Days passed, then weeks. Life continued in its familiar grind, but something subtle had shifted. Mara found herself thinking of that night when the rain fell hardest, of the stranger whose presence had stirred something awake inside her. She scolded herself for the thoughts, for the softness they invited. Hope was a dangerous thing, and she had learned to live without it. Still, she smiled more without realizing why, and the weight she carried felt, if only slightly, less crushing. Then one afternoon, as the diner buzzed with the usual chaos of clinking plates and tired conversations, she saw him again. He stood near the counter, drier this time, cleaner, but unmistakable. The same quiet gravity, the same eyes that seemed to hold entire chapters of untold stories. Recognition passed between them like a current, immediate and undeniable. He waited patiently, and when their paths crossed, something unspoken unfolded. He had come back not out of coincidence but intention. Life, it seemed, had not let that rainy night remain unfinished. Over time, their lives began to overlap in gentle, unforced ways. He returned to the diner often, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes for nothing more than the comfort of familiarity. Mara learned, piece by piece, that his name was Eli, that he had once built a life that collapsed just as quietly as hers had. He had lost work, then direction, then faith in himself, each loss compounding until he found himself walking in the rain, unsure of where he belonged. There was no dramatic confession, no sweeping declarations. Instead, there were small acts of understanding, moments where pain recognized pain without needing to explain itself. Mara's challenges did not vanish because of him. Bills still arrived. Her son still needed help with homework and reassurance at night. The world still demanded more than she felt able to give. But change rarely announces itself loudly. It arrives in steadier footsteps. Eli listened without trying to fix her life. He respected the boundaries she had built to survive. He showed up again and again in ways that mattered. He helped with rides when her car faltered. He read to her son with a patience that softened something in her chest she had kept guarded. He reminded her, through consistency rather than promises, that she was not invisible. The turning point did not come in a grand gesture, but in a quiet crisis. One night, Mara received a notice that threatened everything she had worked to hold together. The fear returned full force, sharp and paralyzing. She sat alone at the kitchen table long after her son had gone to sleep, rain tapping softly against the window, eerily similar to that first night. This time, she did not face it alone. Eli was there, steady, offering support without judgment, reminding her that storms could be endured, that shelter could be shared. In helping her, he found himself healing too. He began to rebuild his confidence, to seek work with renewed determination, to believe that his presence in the world had weight. Their lives did not merge overnight, but they began to move in the same direction, aligned by choice rather than circumstance. Mara learned that love did not have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes it was as simple as someone waiting in the rain and another person deciding to stop. As seasons changed, so did they. The diner job gave way to better opportunities. The apartment, once a place of quiet desperation, filled with laughter and warmth. Mara watched her son grow more secure, sensing the stability even if he could not name it, and on nights when rain returned, softer now, she no longer felt the same dread. The sound became a reminder of beginnings rather than endings. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of a moment when kindness changed your path, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who believes in quiet miracles, and let us know you're here. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Just before we reach the end, leave a comment telling us one word this story made you feel, because your words matter more than you think. Mara never claimed that destiny had stepped into her car that night. She would have laughed at the idea once, but she believed, deeply and without irony, that kindness had. She believed that choosing compassion, even when tired and afraid, could open doors you did not know existed. The man she picked up in the rain was not a savior, and she was not rescued. They saved themselves, slowly, together, by daring to be human when the world felt coldest. And somewhere, in the memory of a storm-soaked street and a single act of grace, a new life began. Not because it was promised, but because it was chosen.